Okay, good morning to everyone.
Good morning.
Dear friends in Dhamma. I'm very glad to be here again to give you a talk. Today's topic is about consciousness, according to Buddhism, especially according to the teachings of Abhidhamma. I think this talk may be useful for the beginners who like to study Abhidhamma, not for the genius persons in Abhidhamma. However, I'm going to talk about consciousness according to the philosophy of Dhamma. I think most of you are familiar with the first verse of Dhammapada. Mano Ubbangama Dhamma Mano Siddha Manomaya. Mind is forerunner of all. Mind is chief. Mind made Adi. You're very familiar with this Dhammapada verse. It says about mind is the chief of all what we do. Right? One can steal. One can get angry. One can be generous. Whatever we do, whatever we perform as actions, depend on how we think, how our mind functions. So today's topic is about how the consciousness functions in wholesome and unwholesome states. Although the topic is mentioned as consciousness according to Abhidhamma, so I'm not going to cover all the parts of the consciousness mentioned in Abhidhamma, but I'm going to talk about unwholesome consciousness and also the beautiful consciousness according to the philosophy of Abhidhamma. When you hear about the Abhidhamma, generally you come to two views. Abhidhamma is very deep, the first one. The second one is, it is not the teaching of the Buddha. Most of people come to these two conclusions when they talk about the Abhidhamma. So these are the two aspects that I'm not going to address today. So because it is not the time to talk about that point, those aspects, because it is somewhat, it is kind of aspects that most of the scholars have addressed. So what I'm going to talk about is beneficial to your practice and also to understand how your mind works and how your mind functions in different states. So that is what I want to discuss here. So Abhidhamma, although you come to those conclusions, Abhidhamma is very useful for those who want to study Dhamma in depth and detail. It is very useful to understand the teachings of the sutras in detail. So Abhidhamma facilitates the understanding of Dhamma. That's why studying of Abhidhamma is very beneficial for your studies in Dhamma. So Abhidhamma is a systematic study of mind and matter, Nama and Rupa. So in studying of this Nama and Rupa, Abhidhamma talks about four ultimate realities. Abhidhamma teach these four ultimate realities. They are Chitta, consciousness, Chetasika, mental factors, Rupa, matter, Nibbana, the final salvation, final goal of Buddhism. So, these four realities are called as Paramatta Dhamma in Pali. Paramatta Dhamma. Then you can have a kind of image about Abhidhamma and its construction. Abhidhamma does not deal about the conventional. It completely deals with the ultimate, or what is called Paramatta. So, when we go to the text of Abhidhamma, you do not find a kind of names of the person, places of names of the places, and the stories you do not find. The Abhidhamma text completely deal with the ultimate truth, what is called Paramatta Dhamma. So that's why most of people say that the Abhidhamma is very deep to understand. That is true, but if you study more and more, you can understand Abhidhamma teachings are very helpful to understand the teachings of suttas in a detailed way, in a detailed manner, right? So, as I mentioned you earlier, Abhidhamma deals with ultimate realities. Why these are called as ultimate, Paramatta? Because these realities exist and there are no other realities. All the realities can be included under these four sections. The first three are called as condition, because they arise from causes and they all conditioned by other occurrences. The last one, Nibbana, is called as unconditioned reality. So this is a kind of general introduction to Abhidhamma, because I wanted to say something in the beginning of the talk, but I'm not going to talk about these four realities because it is not the time. So what I am going to talk here is about consciousness, Chitta. When you hear about Chitta, and Chetasika also deals with consciousness. According to the commentary, Chitta and Chetasika, consciousness and mental factors arise together. So, therefore, sometimes even though the Abhidhamma analyzes these are separate parts, separate factors, Chitta and Chetasika, they are connected to each other, right? They arise together. The word Chitta, first we need to discuss in short about this term, Chitta. The word Chitta is derived from the root Chit, to think. As I mentioned you earlier, Chitta is that which is the chief in experiencing an object. According to Buddhist psychology, Chittas are classified in different states. So, as you know that there are 89 states of consciousness, then they are developed into 121. So, however, here I'm going to talk about not all these 89 states of consciousness. So I'm going to talk about the unwholesome consciousness, akusala chittas, and also the kama sobhana chittas, what is called beautiful consciousness. So 89 consciousness are divided into 4 parts, 4 sections according to the spheres. All the 89 consciousness states of consciousness are divided into these 4 parts. Kamavachara chittas, consciousness experience in the sense sphere, Kamaloka, and Rupavachara chittas, consciousness experience in the fine material sphere. There are 15. Arupavachara chittas, consciousness mostly experience in the immaterial sphere, Arupaloka. There are 12. Lokuttara chittas, consciousness experience in the supramundane level. There are 8. So all the 89 states of consciousness are divided into these 4 sections, right? So except these 89, there is none of other consciousness. So this is the classification as mentioned earlier. This is a kind of diagram. You can see these 89 chittas and how they are divided into parts. So what I am going to talk about here is the 12 akusala chittas, 12 unwholesome consciousness, right? And also kama sobhana chittas. In kama sobhana chittas, beautiful consciousness, I'll be speaking about only maha kusala chittas, wholesome consciousness, right? Because we have a limited time, we have to talk about only the these selected parts which I mentioned earlier. Spheres. You know about the spheres. This is kind of general introduction to spheres. So, sense sphere refers to the 4 apaya abodes and the human abode and 6 deva abodes. In all these abodes, sensual pleasure is enjoyed. Therefore, it is called kama sobhana chittas. This is what we want to know here. So, in other spheres, different types of consciousness are experienced. I'm not going to talk about them. Now, I come to the point that I want to discuss today. As I mentioned you earlier, today I will be speaking about unwholesome consciousness and beautiful consciousness. Here, you can see under the Kamavachara chittas, there are 54 Kamavachara chittas experienced in the Kamaloka. The first part, unwholesome consciousness, akusala chittas, right? There are 12 akusala chittas. And the last one, beautiful consciousness, what is called kama sobhana chittas. There are 24 actually, but I will be speaking about only the first 8, right? Maha kusala chittas. So the 12 unwholesome consciousness and also the 8 maha kusala chittas are to be discussed here, right? So before that, I wanted to give you some kind of introduction here. That's why I mentioned all of these things, right? Right. Akusala chittas, unwholesome consciousness. Why these are called unwholesome? Because these consciousness lead to unwholesome actions, which in turn produce unwholesome results. That's why they are called as unwholesome, akusala. Right? So, 12 unwholesome chittas are classified into 3 classes. You know that when you study Abhidhamma, more classifications, right? You find more classifications, more divisions. Sometimes when you go through these classifications, you feel that it is very boring to study sometimes, right? But analyzing is very important to understand something very clearly, right? So these 12 unwholesome chittas are divided into 3 parts, 3 sections mainly. Consciousness rooted in greed, right? Lobha Mula Chittas. There are 8 Lobha Mula Chittas. Consciousness rooted in hatred. Dosa Mula Chittas. There are 2. Consciousness rooted in delusion. Moha Mula Chittas. 2. There are 2. When you hear the Pali terms, Lobha Mula Chittas, Mula means the root. Then you can understand the Lobha or greed is the root for these consciousness. Right? Those are Mula Chittas. Mula is the root, Hetu. Right? So, hatred is the root for these 2, the second. And Moha Mula Chittas, Moha, delusion. Delusion is the root for these 2 consciousness. Right? First, I'm going to talk about the Lobha Mula Chittas, consciousness rooted in greed. Right? There are 8. There are 8. Here you can see 4. The rest of others can be seen next. The first one, Somanassa Sagatam Ditthigata Sampayuttam Asankarikam. There are some words to be understood very clearly. Somanassa Sagatam Ditthigata Sampayuttam Asankarikam. These 3 parts are to be understood very clearly. Right? Consciousness, the meaning is unprompted, accompanied by joy, and connected with wrong view. Right? Consciousness, you know the chitta. Asankarika. Asankarika means unprompted. Unprompted. Somanassa Sagatam. Somanassa Sagatam means accompanied by joy. Ditthigata Sampayuttam. Ditthigata Sampayuttam means connected with wrong view. Now you can see there is kind of a root. Root, you know that. Root is greed. And there is a feeling. Right? Feeling is Somanassa Sagatam. And Ditthigata Sampayuttam, there is a view, wrong or correct view, right view. And Asankarikam. Next you find the Sasankarika, prompted and unprompted, right? So these 3 are to be understood here. I mean the root, you know that, root is greed, and feeling, then view, and prompted or unprompted. These 3 parts, right? The second one, Somanassa Sagatam ditthigata sampayuttam sasankarikam. The first one is asankarika. It means unprompted. The second one is sasankarika. It means prompted, right? Consciousness prompted, accompanied by joy, and connected with wrong view, right? So I'll give you examples, then you can come to then you can understand very easily. The third one, somanassa sagatam ditthigata vipayuttam asankarikam. Here you find ditthigata vipayuttam, right? Disconnected with wrong view. That is the difference, right? Disconnected with wrong view. The first two are connected with wrong view. Here the second one and third one and the fourth one are disconnected with the wrong view, right? The fourth one, somanassa sagatam ditthigata vipayuttam asankarikam, consciousness prompted, accompanied by joy, and disconnected with wrong view, right? Next four. Fifth one, upekha sagatam ditthigata sampayuttam asankarikam. The first four deals with somanassa, what is called joy, but the rest four deals with upekha, what is called indifference. But when you hear about the Brahma Viharas, four sublime states, you find this upekha, but it means equanimity. Here, it is better to get the meaning as indifference, right? It doesn't say about equanimity here. So here you find this what is called indifferent as the feeling here, right? Upekha sahagatam ditthigata sampayuttam asankarikam. The second, according to the number, this comes as 6, right? Upekha sagatam ditthigata sampayuttam sasankarika. You can see the difference, right? The first one is asankarika. The next one is sasankarika, right? Unprompted and prompted. The seventh one, upekha sagatam ditthigata vipayuttam asankarikam. Here you find the difference. Ditthigata vipayuttam. It is disconnected with wrongly. Right? Last one. Upekha sahagatam ditthigata vipayuttam sasankarikam. Ditthigata vipayuttam. Disconnected with wrongly. Right? So this is the last consciousness. Now you know the 8 Lobha Mula Chittas, 8 consciousness rooted in greed, right? The first 4 deals with the feeling of joy. Sometimes the first one is connected with, first 2 connected with the wrong view, and the third and the fourth disconnected with wrong view. The last 4 deals with the feeling of indifference, right? And the 5th and the 6th connected with the wrong view, and the 7th and 8th disconnected with wrong view, right? So now you can understand the difference, right? As you know that there are 3 roots of unwholesome: Lobha, Dosa and Moha. In Lobha Mula Chittas, Lobha is the root. The term Lobha derived from the root Lob, which means to cling or attach. So it is translated into English attachment, clinging, but most of the scholars use greed. So craving is also used as an equivalent of lobha. So in the case of a desirable object of sense, there arises as a rule clinging or attachment, whatever you can use the terms. So in these states of consciousness, root is lobha, right? Which means attachment. Feeling. What is the feeling? When there is greed, joy is there. When you are greed, you always try to please your senses, right? So somanasa, feeling of joy is there, pleasurable feeling is there. So it's an abstract noun, form of su. Su means good in Pali. Then the term means good-mindedness, pleasurable feeling, right? Somanasa was there as a feeling. Then upekka. Upekka means neutral, right? So better to use indifference as a meaning, right? So view. There was a view, right? Ditthigata Sampayutta. You remember Ditthigata Sampayutta, Ditthigata Vipayutta. Sometimes connected with the wrong view, sometimes disconnected with wrong view. The term Ditti is derived with the root dis, means to see, to perceive, and it is translated into English as view, belief, or opinion, whatever. You know, when Ditti is followed with Samma, what is called right view, right belief, then Miccha Ditti, wrong view. So here you do not find Samma or the terms Miccha, but you find Dittigata Sampayutta and Dittigata Vipayutta. Ditti itself says about wrong view. The term Ditti itself says about wrong view, wrong belief, not about the right view. That's why they mention Dittigata Sampayutta, connected with wrong view. Dittigata Vipavita, disconnected with a wrong view. So then you find these two terms, Asankarika and Sasankarika. I think you remember, no? It is better to remember the Pali words. Through the Pali words, you come to the real meaning and the understanding, right? So, asankarika. Asankarika means unprompted. Sasankarika means prompted. Actually, these two terms are to be understood in two ways, right? Asankarika, unprompted. Unprompted means there is no any kind of help from a friend or any kind of advice from a friend or whoever you associate, right? And the other thing is there is no kind of hesitation, right? Hesitation. The sasankarika also understood in the same way, right? So sasankarika means prompted. Prompted means there is a help or advice given by a friend or whoever you associate, right? And the other thing is it is hesitated, right? I will explain you how these terms actually are to be understood in a general way. Then I go to the consciousness again, right? The first one, I'll give you an example for this, right? Then you can understand. Imagine there is a boy with joy steals an apple, weaving no evil thereby. right? This is the example for the first consciousness, right? A boy joyfully steals an apple, weaving no evil thereby, right? Boy. Somanasa Sagatam means joyfully. Somanasa Sagatam means with joy, joyfully. Dittigata Sampayutta. He doesn't believe that there is bad results of bad karmas. There are good results of good karmas. He doesn't believe that. That's why it is connected with wrong view. That's why I said weaving no evil thereby. Right? And the important thing is it is unprompted. Unprompted means no one helped him, no one said him to do that. Right? Then we have to add this part. So a boy joyfully steals an apple, weaving evil, no evil thereby. And it is unprompted. Right? No one helped him, no one said him to do. Right? That's why it is called unprompted. The second one, in the same manner, we can get a boy joyfully steals an apple, weaving no evil thereby, but it is prompted. Someone said him to do it, or someone helped him to do it. And it has been done with a plan. Right? Because you know that some persons steal without any plan when he's going somewhere or when he's going on the street. He just think to steal it. Right? The boy sees an apple tree and steal. But someone is not like that. He has seen the apple tree before and he thinks that, oh, I should steal these apples, but it is better to be careful and I should investigate whether there are people or not, like that. That's kind of planning, right? So that's why it is prompted, right? Now you can understand these two chittas, consciousness, according to the examples, right? It's very important to be alert to understand, right? Then the third one, boy joyfully steals an apple, weaving no harm thereby, right? With disconnected with wrong, weaving here no harm, not the first two no harm, and here he doesn't know, right? He doesn't know there is kind of a bad result, right? So in the first two, he knows that there are bad resultants of bad karma, but under these, he doesn't know. He doesn't know there are bad results of bad karmas. That's why it is disconnected with the wrong way. He doesn't know, right? Then the fourth one, the boy joyfully steals an apple, weaving. He doesn't know actually there is a bad resultants, right? And it is unprompted, right? Sorry, it is prompted. The fourth one is prompted. The third one is unprompted. Right? So, when you go to these four consciousness, the first two connected with wrong view. Connected with wrong view. The person who steals knows very well there is bad results of bad karmas. And the third one and the fourth one disconnected with wrong view. Disconnected with wrong view means he has no kind of knowledge like that. Right? So this is to be understood very clearly. Right? So all of these four consciousness is actually functions with joyful mind. Right? With joy. Right? The difference is the wrong view and also prompted and unprompted. These things. Then I will come to next four. Upekka sanagata ditthigata sampayutta sankharika. Difference is there is no joy. There is no the feeling of joy. Indifference is there. Right? The boy steals an apple, but there is not a kind of joy. Right? Why? You know that sometimes when he steals an apple and he start to eat it, but it is not delicious. Sometimes joy is not there, right? So, but here it is mentioned upekha. Upekha means actually indifference, right? Indifference is there. So, the first here, the fifth one and the sixth one connected with the wrong view. He knows that there is bad results of bad karma. And the next one disconnected with the wrong views. The seventh one and the eighth one disconnected with wrong view. Right? It means that the person who does this wrong thing doesn't know about this. Right? There is bad results of bad karmas. Right? That's why it is disconnected with wrong view. Right? So these are the 8 states of consciousness rooted in love, rooted in greed. Whatever you do with greed are included under these 8 consciousness. Right? It is not about stealing. Whatever you do rooted in greed. Right? It is not about only the stealing. Right? Then sometimes when I give this kind of example, you always think about that this is only a stealing. No, I will explain you how the evil actions, 10 evil actions can be classified under these consciousness, right? Now you may have kind of a general understanding about these 8, right? Then I will go to next. Consciousness rooted in delusion. Sorry, before that I will come to this. Consciousness rooted in hatred, what is called dosa mula. Right? Dosa mula jittas. Here the root is hatred, you can understand. Right? There are two. The first one, domanassa sahagatam patigha sampayuttam asankarikam. Consciousness unprompted, accompanied by displeasure and connected with ill will. Hatred. Then second one, domanassa sahagatam patigha sampayuttam sasankarikam. Consciousness prompted, accompanied by displeasure and connected with ill will, hatred. Right? The feeling is, what is the feeling? Feeling is, here root is, you know that root is dosa. The term dosa is derived from dus, from the root dus, means to be displeased. Right? Patigha is derived from pati. against, pati means against, and to strike, to contact. So you find these two terms, ill will and hatred, as equivalents to pati. Feeling is domanassa, right? In dosa mula chittas, the feeling is always dosa, domanassa. Alright? Here you find, right? Accompanied by displeasure. Feeling is displeasure. Here you find the difference between two. The first one is asankarikam, unprompted. Unprompted means, you remember, there is no any kind of help or advice from a friend and no hesitation. When you're doing something with anger, there is no hesitation. You can blame someone, you can hit someone, you can kill someone. If there is no hesitation, it means unprompted, right? Then the second one is prompted. Prompted means you need to plan to do it. You need to plan to do it, and you may have kind of help from a friend or whoever you associate, right? So these two kinds of consciousness are associated with displeasure. You know that I mentioned there are 89 states of consciousness according to Abhidhamma. Only these two consciousness are associated with displeasure. Then you think that all the other consciousness are associated with pleasure, no? Joy. Only these two are associated with displeasure. Then you always think that we always are very happy, right? But what matters here is not the number of states of consciousness accompanied by displeasure. More importantly, how often they occur and recur. Right? You can understand. It is not the number of states of consciousness accompanied by displeasure, but how often they arise in our mind. Right? Mostly these two consciousness arise in our mind. They are connected with displeasure. Then you can understand, if you are displeasurable, if your mind is connected with displeasure, these two consciousnesses are there. One of these consciousnesses are there. It's there, right? All the other consciousness are associated with different feelings. Maybe joy, maybe neutral. But only these two are associated with displeasure. Then I go to the next akusala chittas. They are called as moha moola chittas. Moha moola chittas. You know that I mentioned you that there are no names of the persons in Abhidhamma. There are no names of the places in Abhidhamma. There are no stories in Abhidhamma. That's why I'm not talking about stories. I will not crack the jokes here, right? Only the contents, right? But you can understand, if you go through these teachings, you can come to kind of a good knowledge about how your mind works, and how, especially when you talk about rupa, matter, how the matter and how the rupa form is impermanent, like that, you can come to a good kind of knowledge when you go through Abhidhamma. So, this is the 11th and 12th akusala chittas, right? Already we have discussed 10 akusala chittas, right? The first 8 rooted in lower, 9th and 10th rooted in hatred, then 11th and the 12th, right, rooted in delusion, right? First one, upekha sahagatang vichikicha sampayuttang. It means consciousness accompanied by indifference, connected with skeptical doubt, right? The first one. The second one, upekha sahagatang uddhaccha sampayuttang. Consciousness accompanied by indifference and connected with restlessness, right? The root is moha, which means it is derived from the root mu, means to delude. It is delusion, stupidity, and bewilderment. It is moha that clouds an object and blinds the mind. You know that how moha is working in your mind. Sometimes moha is rendered by ignorance. The feeling is neutral. Neutral feeling is there, right? Indifference is used. Better to use indifference, right? So root is moha, what is called delusion, and the feeling is upekha. Then you find these two terms, vichikicha. Vichikicha sampayuktam. The next one is uddhaccha sampayuktam. Vichikicha sampayuktam means there is doubt, right? Uddhaccha, restlessness, mental confusion is there, right? The first one is clearly mentioned that the person who does not believe about the Buddha, right? He is a deluded person, right? Then uddhaccha sampayuttam. Uddhaccha sampayuttam means restlessness, right? Mental confusion is there, right? So according to the Buddhist teachings, for every evil actions, for every unwholesome actions, moha or delusion is one kind of root actually. Whatever we do as lobha, whatever we do as hatred, right? Moha is there. Moha, delusion is common to all unwholesome consciousness. Right? Moha means if someone is deluded, actually we all are deluded, right? So it means that we do not know the reality. We do not know the reality as they are, right? So this is common to all unwholesome consciousness, right? These two, right? So now we have discussed all these 12 akusala chittas, unwholesome chittas. But I did not mention an example for the first, these two, right? The rooted in hatred, right? So if someone strikes, if someone kills somebody, patiga is there, hatred is there, right? Then I come to this part, right? As you know that there are 10 evil things we do by our mind, speech and body, right? There are 3 which are done by our body actions, right? Killing, stealing, and sexual misconduct, right? These 3 are done by the body, right? So for these 3 kinds of evil deeds, how the consciousness, different kinds of types of consciousness function when we are doing these things, right? When somebody kills, the ninth and the 10th types of consciousness are there. Do you remember the ninth and 10th? Right? Consciousness rooted in hatred. Right? These two consciousness, sometimes one, sometimes maybe one arises first and then the second. Stealing. Right? The first 8. Stealing is committed with the consciousness rooted in greed. Right? First 8. Then the sexual misconduct. It is committed with first 8. Right? First to 8 consciousness. Right? Then there are 4 evils done by speech. Lying, slandering, harsh speech, and vain talk. Right? Lying. Lying is committed with first to 10 consciousness. Right? Slandering, it is committed samely with first to 10 consciousness. Harsh speech, it is done with 9th and the 10th. Then the what is called empty speech, it is done with 1 to 10 consciousness. I think you can understand what I say, no? Then there are 3 kinds of evil actions done by our mind, right? Covetousness, hatred, and false views. Covetousness is associated with 1 to 8 consciousness, types of consciousness, right? Then hatred. Hatred is committed with the 9th and the 10th consciousness. The false view springs with from 1 to 5 and 1, the first, second, 5th, and 6th consciousness. Right? So now you can understand how the consciousness, different types of consciousness functions when we do these kinds of evil actions by our mind, speech, and body. But it doesn't say that in whole action. For an instance, imagine there is a person who steals. Right? Stealing is associated with 1 to 8 consciousness. But when you steal something, somebody may come and try to hit you. Then what do? You may be strike in turn to him. Then the consciousness is converted into another. It is converted into the hatred. Right? Then the 9th or the 10th consciousness may arise in your mind. Right? So, you know that this happens in a very short time of period. Right? Our consciousness changes very quickly, like this. Very quickly. Right? It changes into another consciousness very quickly. So that's why in whatever we do, whatever we speak, whatever we think, we cannot say this kind of consciousness may arise in this point, but it changes very quickly. Right? This is something you need to understand. Right? So this is the 12 types of unwholesome consciousness arise in our mind. Right? The other thing, I mentioned you earlier, delusion. Moha is common to all unwholesome actions. Right? To all unwholesome actions. Delusion. How about the hatred? dosa and greed, lobha. When you are doing something associated with greed, moha is there, delusion is there. When you are doing something connected with hatred, delusion is there. How about the greed and the hatred? They never rise together. Greed and hatred never rise together. Because you know that greed is the liking part, the liking nature of our mind. Right? Hatred is disliking nature of our mind. That's why these two never rise together. Greed and hatred. Right? Now you may have a kind of knowledge about these 12 akusala cittas, unwholesome consciousness. Then I move into next part. What is beautiful? Right? So, beautiful consciousness. Actually, these are the consciousness you need to know. You have to perform these consciousness, right? It doesn't mean that you don't need to know about other things, but you know that there is a method of Buddhism, right? First, the wrong thing is mentioned first. In the sutras, you find what is wrong is mentioned first. Then the right path comes next, right? That is the way of explaining the teachings of Buddhism. In the same way, Abhidhamma, you find this, right? So, beautiful consciousness, right? There are 24 beautiful consciousness. Maha Kusala Chittas, great wholesome consciousness, there are 8. Maha Vipaka Chittas, great resultant consciousness, there are 8. Maha Kiriya Chittas, great functional consciousness, there are 8. So I'll be discussing only the first part, right? Maha Kusala Chittas here, right? Great unwholesome consciousness, right? These are the consciousness by the names, right? The first one, Somanassa Sagatam Jnana Sampayuttam Asankarikam. Consciousness, unprompted, accompanied by joy, associated with knowledge. The second one, Somanassa Sagatam Jnana Sampayuttam Sasankarikam. It is prompted. Difference is prompted. Third one, Somanassa Sagatam Jnana Vipayuttam Asankarikam. Jnana Vipayuttam. Disassociated with knowledge. Here, the first two associated with knowledge, and then the next two disassociated with knowledge. Right? Then, the fifth one, Upekka Sahagatam Jnana Sampayuttam Asankarikam. Consciousness, unprompted, accompanied by indifference and associated with knowledge. Now you can see all of these 8 consciousness, 8 types of consciousness are associated with upekka, indifference. First 4 associated with joy, and here indifference, right? Then upekka sahagatam jnana sampayuttam sasankarikam. It is prompted. 7th one, upekka sahagatam jnana vipayuttam asankarikam. Here accompanied by indifference and disassociated with knowledge, right? The last 2 disassociated with knowledge. Now you know that there is a feeling of wholesome consciousness. In first four, you find feeling of joy, right? First four accompanied by joy, and the last four accompanied by indifference. And sometimes associated with knowledge, sometimes disassociated with knowledge, right? Jnana sampayutta and jnana vipayutta. Sometimes prompted, sometimes unprompted, right? Here, this this term jnana sampayutta and jnana vipayutta, it is better to understood, right? Better to know about it, right? So, jnana sampayutta, jnana, this term jnana is used in a different context in Buddhism. Here, jnana means he knows very well about this, right? It means that he knows there is good results of good karmas, good results of good deeds. He knows about it very well. According to with that knowledge, he is performing good actions. But you know that there are some persons who has not this kind of knowledge, but he performs good actions. You know that some people are doing good things with the knowledge. Some people are doing good things without knowing it. There is good results of these karmas like that, right? So that is the way, right? So, however, with knowledge or without knowledge, they will be born in heaven or in a human world, right? So all of these consciousness have good results in the future, right? So I'll give you one example for the first one, right? Somanasa sagatam jnana sampayuttam asankarikam, right? If someone gives something to a beggar, and he is very joyful, and no one said to him to do it, but it's called unprompted, and he knows very well there are good results of good karmas. With all of these things, he gives something to beggar. Joy is there, right? Joy is there. And the last two, I mean that the third and the fourth one, disassociated with knowledge. A person gives something to a beggar, he is very joyful, and he doesn't know, sometimes he doesn't believe there is good results of good karmas. But he is performing it, he's doing these wholesome actions, right? So that is the way we have to understand this. This upekha, how when you do something wholesome, upekha is there, indifference is there. You know that when you develop wealth, when you cultivate four sublime states, what are called Satara Brahma Vihara, right? So, Metta, Karuna, Mudita, Ubeka, right? So, here, although according to Brahma Vihara's equanimity is mentioned there, here the neutral feeling is to be understood. But when you go very deeply, we can understand sometimes this can be identical in some way, right? However, neutral feeling is there. When you do something good, sometimes you are very joyful, sometimes indifference feeling is there, right? But you are not displeasurable. I mean, it is not associated with displeasure. Whatever you do wholesome is not associated with displeasure, right? So this is the kind of question to be arised, which is very important question, right? The wholesome and consciousness disassociated from knowledge could really be called wholesome. You remember the four types of consciousness are disassociated with knowledge, right? So the answer is given here. The commentarial explanation is that it is called wholesome only in indirect way, right? As the fan made not on of palm use but of mats, etc. Right? Is called figuratively a palm fan from its resemblance to it. So consciousness disassociated from knowledge is called wholesome. It is further observed that from an ultimate point of view, what is called nippariyayena, consciousness associated with knowledge is called wholesome in the three senses of mental health. Arogya, mental mental health, and anavajjata, mental purity, and causal skill. Whereas consciousness disassociated from knowledge is called wholesome only in respect of the first two senses, right? This shows that skill associated with consciousness is due to the presence of the knowledge factor, right? So now you can get the answer for that question. So sometimes the wholesome consciousness is disassociated from knowledge, but mostly with knowledge, right? So now you can understand how these wholesome consciousness perform. So I just mentioned these Lokustara Chittas, but no need to explain because I'm not going to talk about these things. So these are called as supramundane moral consciousness. Or when you go to the higher level of wholesome, right, you find this kind of consciousness. Consciousness belonging to the path of extreme entry, and once returning, never returning, and the path of arhatship. Right. So now you can understand these 12 akusala chittas, and also beautiful consciousness, right? In day-to-day life, you if you have kind of knowledge about these types of consciousness, you know how to avoid from bad actions what are done by the mind, speech, and body, and then you know how to perform wholesome actions, what is called kusala, in your day-to-day life. So I think you know that I see some of the places who study Abhidhamma very deeply, right? But this talk will be beneficial to beginners, right? Not for those who study Abhidhamma very deeply, because they know about these things very well, right? So, but this talk will be very beneficial for those who study Abhidhamma, who like to study Abhidhamma, who are interested in Abhidhamma. So, one thing I need to mention here that if someone wants to study Dhamma very deeply, please go to the Abhidhamma. It is one thing, right? Because you know that we find some of the later additions to Abhidhamma. For an instance, Kathavattupakarana. Kathavattupakarana was composed in the time of Third Buddhist Council, right? Almost 3 years later after the demise of the Buddha, right? But although we find kind of later development of the teachings of Abhidhamma, why Abhidhamma is useful to study? You know that there is not a living Buddha now, if something arose, if something is there connected with doctrinal factor, we can ask the Buddha, right? But now there is not a Buddha, right? The teachings are there, especially Abhidhamma teachings were treated by the disciples later according to the teachings given by the Buddha. So, you know that there is something very important point. The Buddha taught the main teachings. Then the disciples were treated, giving some explanations to them. Explanations are there, right? So those explanations are very helpful to understand the Dhamma. That's why we need to learn, study Abhidhamma very deeply, right? According to my point of view, although I spoke about consciousness and the types of consciousness, the Abhidhamma philosophy mainly depends on matter, rupa, right? To be enlightened or to enter the final goal of Buddhist, we need to have kind of knowledge about this matter, rupa. But we just study these types of consciousness. They are very beneficial for us to avoid from unwholesome and to perform the wholesome things. But if we want to understand something with wisdom, with the knowledge of insight, the understanding of matter is really, really important. So this talk is, as I mentioned you, this talk is useful for the beginners. But next, we are going to talk about matter on 30th, no, on 30th December. So that talk may be very beneficial to those who study Abhidhamma very deeply. All right. So this is kind of starting, right? Start of this talk. So, however, now I'm going to conclude this session. So I talked about 12 unwholesome and the 8 beautiful consciousness, which are very beneficial to be understood, and please try to be avoid from unwholesome and try to cultivate wholesome thoughts in your mind and to be wholesome in your body, speech, whatever you do, right? So for this, sati should be there, mindfulness should be there. Mindfulness is very beneficial, right? So if you are mindful, you know how your mind works, how your mind functions, right? Then it helps to avoid from unwholesome and to perform wholesome, right? Now I am going to wind up this talk. Thank you very much for your participation and being patient. If you have any questions, your questions are welcome. Marina sisters, any questions?
Thank you for the sharing. Very grateful. Actually, it's my first time listening to Abhidhamma sharing, so this is an introduction for me. And now I understand why people actually go for Abhidhamma classes. I just want to clarify something. You have here like Upeka, Sahagatam, Titigata, Sampayuta, Asankarikam. And then there is this part here which is connected with wrong view. You have it, under the different consciousness, say for hatred. So you have that word, the phrase, connected with wrong view.
Which?
Many, there's many.
Disconnected with.
Disconnected or connected with the wrong view.
Yes.
So that means if the person is doing a deed, if it's rooted, just say, let's see, I have to go back. Sorry. There's quite a lot of slides. So let me scroll. Okay. Yeah. If
You can see this slide.
yeah, under the green one, there's a lot with connected and disconnected. That means when you're doing the action, you know your knowledge, you know that it is wrong. Is that what you mean by connected with wrong view?
No.
They have no knowledge of Dhamma, but they know it is a wrong action. But
Yeah.
even by a normal common sense as a human.
Yeah.
That is what you mean by
Yeah.
connected and
Connected
disconnected.
with the first two connected with the wrong view. Wrong view means if someone does not believe there is good results of good karmas, he has that view. It is wrong.
But you see, like other religions, I'm just curious. Like other religions, they know you sow what you reap what you sow. In a Christian, that's what they believe. I'm not Christian, but I'm just curious. Because I have a lot of relatives who are Christians. I'm just curious.
Yeah, there are some ethical issues actually. You
Yeah,
know that
but they
something
also
is
know.
very good for us. Sometimes it's not good for other people, right? But here,
I'm just
according
wondering,
to
for those people, do they have knowledge? Are they considered connected with wrong view or disconnected with wrong view?
actually
But they know.
they are connected with
what
the
they
wrong
sow.
view. They are connected with the wrong view because they don't know. They are connected with the wrong view,
So
not disconnected with the wrong view.
I see. Okay. 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 All right. Okay. And then there is another one. Your latest slides, which has the 10. Yeah, the consciousness in 10 evils, and then you have like killing, stealing, and then you have like lying, slandering, which you cover the whole spectrum 1 to 10. Yeah,
Yes.
everything.
Yes.
So you have upeka, which is indifference, and then you have before upeka you have the joy, right? When you said the consciousness is present in the 10 evils 1 to 10, that means you can have joy and indifference at the same time.
At the same time.
At the same time,
No,
or it is one state at a time.
No, you know
Joy
that the same consciousness does not arise in the same time.
Right.
It changed quickly.
It changed quickly.
Yes.
So that's what
Not
you mean.
in the same
so
time.
it covers the whole spectrum, but very quickly it flips.
You know that according to the Buddhist teachings, if some kind of consciousness is there, there are no two. Sometimes it may be changed very quickly. Then another consciousness arises.
But
not
it's
the same.
likely in
But
that speed.
as I mentioned you earlier, in the same action, maybe different types of consciousness are there. When you are doing something, sometimes different consciousness may arise in your mind according to the situations. So I gave you an example. When you steal, somebody may come and see and strike you, right? Then your consciousness may be changed into another.
Okay. But I'm getting it, lah. I think it's more like it's flipping very quickly. But
Yes,
it's present.
very quickly. We can imagine it.
Thank you, Bhante.
Okay, thank you for your questioning.
Reverend Bhante, one question. On this association with wrong view and without wrong view, which one have a higher karma with weightage?
Right. Actually, it's about resultants, no? If someone knows this is bad, if that knowledge is doing this wrong thing, actually, when we talk about the resultants, he is doing it without with intention, sometimes without intention, right? So, according to the Buddhist point of view, it is very clear that if someone is doing something with the knowledge means if someone knows that this is good, this is bad, and there are bad results of bad karmas, with this, if someone is doing, I think it is more powerful than that. Because he knows it, right? It is more powerful. But I'm not sure about the resultants actually. because I cannot focus for it. Results may come in maybe in the same manner, maybe in different manner.
Okay, brothers and sisters, any more questions? Okay, if there's no more questions, our highest thanks to Bhante K Wajira for the excellent sharing.